Dave Palumbo here with another RX Muscle rant. Today's topic, Phil Heath. Phil's in the news. He's grabbed all the headlines as of late with that big announcement that he's entering the Mr. Olympia 2020 at the end of the year in December. He's going to try to make it 8 wins, which would tie the record of Lee Haney and Ronnie Coleman. Phil took a lot of heat toward the end of his reign, I guess you could say, last year. Specifically from social media, I think more so than anything, the YouTubers, the Instagram, giants out there, all the people have tremendous followings. And understandably, Phil has been one of the only champions that really had to deal with this kind of scrutiny, throughout his reign. Because the last 7 years is really when social media got huge, when YouTube blew up, Instagram, took off. Facebook really, got a life of its own. So Phil's been dealing with this for 7 years, and then obviously the last 2 years that he hasn't been really around competing, he's still dealing with obviously it. But I would say the last couple of years of that reign, he really was taking a lot of heat. And Phil likes to get in it. He doesn't just take it. He doesn't just sit quietly like a lot of these former champions did. He's in the trenches fighting these guys and arguing with them and stuff like that, which is probably not the greatest idea. But you know what? In the world of social media, you have to participate. If you don't, you kind of get left in the dust. So I guess from a marketing perspective, it was something that was good for Phil. But at the same time, it wasn't good for Phil's psyche, and it also probably wasn't good the way he was judged on the Olympia stage. Because let's face it, all these judges watch social media as well. So Phil was doing a little Instagram live video with Dan Solomon, and Dan, who runs the Olympia now, he's in charge of all that production of it. And, he was, I guess, asking Phil, how he got along with his fans. And he says, I got a good relationship with my fans. And he kind of took like a little mini shot at like the Louis Marco, Nick's Strength and Power sites as, maybe like, the term he kind of used was all the ads they put up. I think he meant all the advertising they get from the videos they use and about him, because let's face it, when Phil was hot, they were reporting on him all the time, and specifically Louis Marco started with the bubble gut thing, and Nick's Power and Strength kind of followed up with the whole, controversy about Phil's stomach. And
describe, if you would, your connection with the fans, because I know it's always been sort of a hot, cold journey for you, and you're never afraid to connect with fans. You're not afraid to get into it with fans at times. It's something that you've always been you wear your heart on your sleeve. So talk about that relationship with the fans, because for you, I think it's a very unique one compared to other champions we've had.
I actually think I have a very good relationship with my fans, and I think what you're describing is from years past.
Okay.
And I also think it's because of the consistent narrative that vloggers have used to try to get more follows. They'll run. I mean, look, let's be honest. We had guys like Louis Marco run ad after ad after ad, ad after ad after ad. We had Nick Power guy, whatever the hell his name is, ad after ad after ad, all to give themselves more love online.
I think Phil, and I understand where he's coming from. It's got to irk him a little bit when he has guys that are, social media guys. They're not bodybuilders who've competed professionally. They're not analysts. They're not media websites that cover the sport like RX Muscle, Muscular Development, when Flex Online was around. These were legitimate sites that, kind of covered the sport like ESPN would, or ABC or NBC, because there is no coverage for bodybuilding. So, he expects it to be judged and analyzed by the experts on these websites, but then he's got also the regular average guys who just do it because they're fans of the sport, and they have much bigger followings than a lot of times than the legitimate agencies do, because let's face it, the average guy can relate to the average guy analyzing it. The average guy will watch the experts, but then they also want to know what their friends think about it, and that's Nick's Strength and Power, Louis Marco. That sounds like it's like the guy you can go and have a drink at the bar with, reviewing these things and putting a lot of hard work into doing their research and everything like that. But at the end of the day, These are guys that are just, making observations that may or may not be accurate and that may or may not sway public opinion because they have such a big following. So I think what was happening, and I don't have to guess, I can kind of surmise it, that Phil is irked by this. And he probably figures, you know what, I probably lost the last Olympia because these guys made such a big deal about my midsection that normally would have just been glossed over in years past. I mean, Dorian had midsection issues for a while. Ronnie had midsection issues at the end of his reign. Even Jay had some midsection, issues at certain points in his career. So, when there was no one to point it out other than, a couple of, guys who competed with these guys bitching and complaining at the press conference, it didn't really get much notice. But when you have guys with huge social media followings pointing it out over and over and over again, because let's face it, they do that because they get lots of hits from that and they get lots of views and they make money from that because they monetize these videos. And, it's fun because they know the fans love it. So, why, if I'm Phil Heath, Mr. Olympia, and I know I lost $400,000 Olympia and my 8th Olympia, predominantly because of what's going on in social media, because under any other circumstances, at any other point in time, that probably never would have happened because Phil looked pretty damn good on that stage. Let's face it, Roden was great, and the best he was, but, it could have gone either way. I mean, the judge, it was a very close decision, had, people not been making a big deal about his midsection, he might have gone on and won that Olympia. I don't know, we don't really know what could have happened or whatnot. So when someone like Nick at Nick's Strength and Power speculates like that Phil doesn't like him or that this and that, or Phil's taking a shot at it, well, can you expect, and what do you expect, I mean, this is a guy who lost an Olympia, a lot of money and a legacy, and essentially. So he doesn't, need you guys going after him. Likewise, you guys have every right to go after him. That's your job. That's how you make your money. But I could understand where Phil's coming from at that point. I reached out to Phil for an interview after I heard the announcement, and Phil got back to me and said, Dave, I'm not going to be doing a million interviews now because I'm really going to focus on the show. And when the show comes and we get closer, we can do something. And I respect that because you know what, the guy's got to focus. Okay, he's got to focus on winning this show. People think, oh, he's going to run in there and it's going to be an easy cakewalk. Nothing's an easy cakewalk. Not at the Olympia level. Phil knows that. Everyone else knows that. The judges know that. Phil's got to be at his best if he wants to win this Olympia and establish himself as an 8-time winner and possibly go on to 9 wins. He's taking this seriously. That's why he took a year off. He took a year off to recharge. Now he's ready to go again. He's got to expect he's going to get a lot of scrutiny, going into this show, obviously, because these guys are looking for that, because that's how they get hits. And it's not just Nick and Louis Marco's really not around anymore, but it's not just Nick and these other, there's a lot of sites out there. That's what they do. They get their traffic based off of finding weaknesses in bodybuilders that are out there and pointing them out. And that's once again, that's fine. If that's entertainment, that's entertainment. Look at the celebrities out there in Hollywood. If I was a celebrity, I don't know if I could take it with the Star and National Enquirer and TMZ and everything you do is scrutinized. If you don't close the car door properly and your kid's in the car, they point out everything. You're under a microscope, and no one's perfect out there. Okay, and everyone has vulnerabilities, and it's uncomfortable when you're so popular that every site out there, YouTube, Instagram, are pointing out all the things that you know are your weaknesses. Because believe me, Phil knows what his weaknesses are and what his strengths are. He knows better than all of us because he has to look at himself in the mirror every day. When I would look in the mirror, all I would see was the things that didn't look good. I never saw the great things because I was always trying to fix the things that I felt needed work. So I understand Phil's, relationship or non-relationship with some of these sites out there because he feels that they're not legitimate, and why should they be pointing out these things and making his job even harder than it already is trying to win an Olympia. I also see the social media side of it because look, this is how these guys earn their living. This is what they do. They're fans. Nick said it best on his site. He's like, I'm a fan. I'm a fan that points out things that other fans are seeing in their mind, and that's why they can relate to me, and that's why they subscribe to my channel, and that's why his channel is doing well. And I understand that. They're not subscribing to his channel for his analysis of what's going on. They're subscribing because they want to know what a regular guy who is a bodybuilder, who works out, who's a fan of the sport, thinks about the sport. It's a different perspective. There's room for everyone. Everyone can find a niche for themselves in this marketplace. Some people complain about everything, okay? Some people like to show the great, motivational aspect of the sport. Some people, like myself, I try to, get to the bottom and the root of the truth of what's going on and reveal it, okay? Everyone has their own little niche that they fall into, and Nick's niche is a very popularist niche. In other words, here's what people want to know. It might not be the most in-depth analysis, but it's what I'm thinking in my brain as a fan, and because of that, he has a lot of traffic and a lot of people who watch his stuff because that's what most people are thinking. I think differently. I'm like, all right, what is causing this? How do we fix this? How do we get to the bottom and the root of what really is going on? If I'm interviewing someone, what makes this person tick? That's what gets me excited about doing an interview or doing a video. Just like this video. Does Phil really have this hate relationship with the press? No, he does not. I interviewed him. It was a great interview, I thought, after he lost at Olympia. It was very honest on his part. I think he's an honest guy. I think he's trying to do something that no one else has ever done before. It's a difficult task. It's a lot of stress and anxiety. That's probably why he stopped for a while. It was too much for him to take. He needed a break. He's recharged now. Luckily, his body is still in good shape. He has no injuries. He's still relatively young. And I think he's going to win that 8th Olympia. I think he can do it. But he's still got Brandon Curry, who's the reigning champ in the way. He's got Flex Lewis, who's coming up. He possibly has Sean Roden if he takes care of his case coming. So he's got a lot of work to do. And I understand why he's so mentally tough and focused. He couldn't be that any other way than that, or he never would have won 7 Olympias. He wants to go to war against everyone, whether you're on stage with him or not. And that's why he's a winner, because he has that killer mentality inside, that killer instinct that enables him to focus in on someone and go after them. You don't have to like what he says or not, but his body and his physique speak for itself. And it has for 7 years. While he was Olympia champ, and several years before that, and up until now. So will he win an Olympia? We're going to have to wait and see. What's the scrutiny going to be? I'm sure all you guys out there who say, oh, I don't care, you're all going to report every little nuance of every little piece of gossip that comes out there, because that's what you do. And that's fine. There's nothing wrong with that. But expect that Phil's not going to sit back and take it lightly. He's going to come after you guys, because that's what he does. He's a hunter. And he's not going to let anyone else hunt him. And that's why he's so successful at what he does. I'm Dave Palumbo with an RX Muscle Rant.